Usually whenever I do these little monologues, I do it facing the camera or talk over gameplay footage. This time though, I figured I'd try out my animation skills. Hopefully it's not too pixelated. So, what's the discussion? Well, I am a transgender. I said it. So, what does that mean? In my case, it means I want to be a woman. I could probably live the rest of my life as a man, but I know that my life would be happier as a woman. So, when did this start? I'm going to be very vague here. The real story is kind of gross and a little embarrassing. Plus, I want to keep this G-rated. This would be X-rated for sure. If you want more insight into the X-rated version, I'll leave the term to my condition in the description. Just research at your own risk. It was probably about the age of 12. There were other subtle signs years before this, but I saw this as the beginning. It started out small. I was curious about what it was like to be a woman. During middle school, the curiosity became desire. The desire was on and off from there. This was followed by being off for several years, where I thought this phase of my life was over. Then, it came back with a vengeance this year. You may be wondering, why now? There are several factors there. The first being knowledge. I've never heard of gender reassignment surgery until one controversial Miss Universe contestant, and I never heard of anybody being transgender until Caitlyn Jenner came out. Even then, I didn't know what that even meant. It wasn't until maybe about 3 years ago I ever knew what being trans really meant. Then only this year I ever figured out what that entailed. I found myself fascinated with this subject. The idea that a man could become a woman, or a woman could become a man. How was that possible? From there, I did a lot of research, reading articles, asking questions, getting any shred of information I could. Something wasn't sitting right with me, though. Why am I so interested in this? And is there a connection with the story from above? I found a trans community, and I gave them my story. And I mean the X-rated one. They sent me a few other links, which were communities asking about their gender. One for eggs, and another for transgender individuals. Just in case, an egg is somebody who is transgender but hasn't accepted it yet, similar to being in the closet when it comes to being gay. I found a lot of stories matched up with mine, right down to minor details. I've been challenging myself, thinking of any reason that I am not trans. However, this ended up proving that I am. I've also been seeking therapy. This is a big decision. I want to take my time with it. My therapist has also been challenging me, and, like before, is just proving that I am trans. Well, it's my story, vaguely. While I'm here, I figured I would define some common terms, as well as clear up some misconceptions. First is cisgender. This is the opposite of being transgender. It means you are the same gender you were born as, and you feel comfortable as that. For a time I thought cis was an acronym for comfortable in skin. However, it comes from a Latin word which means the same. Transgender. At its root, this basically means you don't feel comfortable in the gender you were born as. Trans is the shortened word for it. I hope you don't mind that I go on a little detour here. First off, I want to state that I like to read a lot. I'm currently working on One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Fantastic read, I highly recommend it. The problem is, if you were to give me a sentence from that book, and ask me to tell you the parts of it, I could only do the basics. Why do I bring this up? From my understanding, the term trans or transgender is an adjective and not a noun. Also, the word transgenders does not exist, since you can't pluralize an adjective. So if you're not an English major, this is what I mean. An adjective is a describing word. For example, the small elephant. Small is the adjective. The way I've been using the term so far could be considered as a noun, though I'm trying to keep it as an adjective. In the small elephant example, the elephant is the noun. If I have been using it as a noun, I'm doing this out of laziness rather than disrespect. Plus, I don't know if this is universally accepted. Seems like the news uses the term trans this way, but I wanted to be sure to make a note of it here. So, in this case, the proper use for describing me would be a trans woman, or individual. Take your pick. I personally don't care. You can call me he if you want. The next word is dysphoria, specifically gender dysphoria. There are multiple types of dysphoria, but whenever I look up the definition, it always goes to gender issues. Basically, dysphoria is the feeling one gets when their body doesn't match up with what they feel like. On the opposite end, we have euphoria. You've probably heard this word before. It just means extreme happiness. In the case of gender euphoria, it means that you are happy with your body. While there are a lot more terms out there, I just wanted to go with the basics. Before concluding, I figured I'd clear up some misconceptions. Obviously, this is not an exhausted list, as I wanted this to be for general audiences. The first general misconception is the idea that everybody transitions the same way. This is not the case. Some may only need laser hair removal, others may need hormones, and more need gender reassignment surgery. Others may need a combination of all three. It really all depends on the level of dysphoria. The second is the surgery. I put this in quotes for a reason. There is no one gender reassignment surgery. Think about it this way. Do you think a trans man and a trans woman want the same gender reassignment surgery? On top of that, there are different subcategories for each. They ultimately have the same result, but how this is achieved is completely different. Third, cross-dressing and drag. I'm not sure if the term drag can be applied to both male and female, so this is why I also put cross-dressing. While cross-dressing could be a sign of being transgender, not all that do it want to transition. There are people out there that like who they are, but just want to wear the other gender's clothes. Fourth, this can happen to anyone. On the news, we hear of men in their 30s who want to transition. This is not everyone. There are kids that are transgender, and even women. Anybody can be transgender. Fifth, gay or straight. There are two I'll dispel here. The first is transitioning is done to be straight. For example, a gay man wants to transition in order to be a straight woman. While this may be the case for a few, that is not the reason most transition. The main goal of transitioning is to be comfortable with your body. Looks like I'm dispelling three here. The third, being all trans people are gay or straight. Like everybody else on this planet, it's a mixture of both. I don't really have the statistics to say how even it is, but there are both straight and gay trans people. I will end with this one. The general conception that this doesn't exist or it's just a phase. From my experience, I can tell you these are false. I'll try to convince you, but at the end of the day, only you can change your mind. Let's start with the idea of dysphoria. Have you ever looked in the mirror and didn't like what you saw? Perhaps your hair color, eye color, weight, or maybe something else. So, what do you do about it? Perhaps you dye your hair, wear custom contact lenses, or go on some sort of diet or exercise regimen. Then, when you look in the mirror again, you feel great about yourself, liking how you look and feel. That is dysphoria. You were dissatisfied about your body, went through a minor transition, and now you are happy. Same basic principle. As for a phase, I can wholeheartedly attest that this is not one. Like I've said, I've had this for years, but it never was a problem. For a while, it seemed like it went away, but it's only gotten worse in recent years. For my case, it was cycles. But if you are a transgender individual, this desire does not go away. In fact, it seems like the more you suppress it, the worse it gets. Well, that's about all I have to say. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have anything a little more on the edgier side, please put NSFW, not safe for work, in the comment. I'll acknowledge right now that I am not an expert in the subject, so perhaps I got a few facts wrong, or I used the wrong term somewhere. If so, I did not do this to attack you, so please don't attack me. Just tell me what I got wrong, and where, and what the right response should have been. I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe I answered a few questions you may have on this subject. Till next time, keep having fun.